If you are someone with a disability, I wonder what your thoughts are on this, because I feel like being disabled means that I am constantly doing math. So, for example, I was at work the other day and I had to move some things around. And typically, if they're heavy items, I'm able to move them from straight across to my lap, since I'm a wheelchair user, or slightly above, as long as it's not me pulling something down onto me and crushing me or trying to deadlift something. Well, I was doing this task that was technically within my strength limits, but these boxes were stacked and I was trying to get to the right item. And I stood there just trying to figure out how I was going to get the box that I needed, because it was like right here and there's like 3 boxes on top of it, and trying to grab it without hurting myself and without hurting the items that I was trying to get through. And potentially, what was the cost benefit analysis of actually asking someone to help me with this, or to say I can't do this because I'm disabled. And all of these things are in calculation with like other parameters, and I'm not very good at math. I don't formulas. I love doing formula stuff in school. I was so bad with numbers and I don't know what everything is called. But the point is, I am tired of doing this type of math because I'm constantly calculating what is my physical health, what are my physical limits, what are the social aspects, and what does my future look like. And I think it's something that we should talk about more often as people with disabilities, because I don't think it's something that non-disabled individuals have to think about. Hello, if you're new to my channel, my name is Isa and I am currently a Disney College Program participant. I also recently graduated with my Master's in Communication Studies with a research focus in organizational communication and disability culture and identity. So, if you are used to my channel, I have been on a hiatus of sorts. I got COVID, so I haven't been posting videos in the last month, but the good news is we have 100 subscribers. I'm so excited. My goal was like 50 for this entire year, and I am so thankful. Thank you. I think we're at 120 now, actually, and it's really cool. I'm so glad. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this because I know the spoon theory addresses the concept of the math and concepts of energy, and I'll explain what the spoon theory is if you don't know in a bit. But since I got sick with COVID and it was really scary and rough, that this constant math came to mind, because where everyone was telling me, get better soon, I was constantly trying to figure out this energy equation. That I had the formula for my life before COVID, and then I had to figure out the formula for my life as I'm recovering from COVID. And I'm still having some issues that I need to get dealt with, but we're not going to talk about that. So let's jump into it. So what is spoon theory? Spoon theory is an incredible tool to explain the energy use for people with disabilities. And it came from a blog where someone was talking in a diner and they're trying to explain what it's like to have chronic illness. And they said, here's all the spoons. These are all the energy that you have throughout the day. And typically you may have all of these spoons, but when you have chronic illness, you only have 4 spoons to get through a 12-spoon day. So what are you going to do? How are you going to use your spoons? There's no layover. How are you going to expect what tomorrow is going to look like when you aren't sure how much energy you're going to have? And spoon theory is something that has spread throughout the disability community. We call ourselves spoonies. Chronic illness particularly is fond of this theory. And I just wanted to talk about it because I also feel kind of like a minimum wage job when you're not quite sure when you're going to get paid, and you're not quite sure exactly how much you're going to make, and your bills just kind of come at random times. And so you're just trying to be prepared as much as possible, because you could have a really good week and have like 3 bills, and then you could have a really poor week and it's only 1 bill, and then sometimes you have a bad week and you have all of your bills come in at the same time, and you're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this moment? And it puts a lot of pressure, mental pressure, I think, for managing disability. And this is where we get into some of the concepts of like stigma management and communication labor and all of these other things that are like the interpersonal aspects, and then the physical labor and the energy levels and all of these, constant things. And it means that there's so much work that is put into managing your disability, but it's not just managing, going to doctors or taking your medication or working around your symptoms. It's managing everything else in its entirety. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And the reality of it is that for someone like me, I was born disabled. I was diagnosed when I was 2, which meant that I don't remember a day before I knew that I was disabled. And so I distinctly remember being a little kid and desperately wanting to dance. When I was 12, my main goal was to be able to dance point before I had to quit, because I knew eventually I was going to. And I knew that I was probably going to end up using a wheelchair full-time, or mostly full-time, in the future. And so as this little kid, where everyone dreams of being a ballerina, I dreamt that I would have a computer system or some type of program that would allow me to show people the dances that I want them to complete, even if I couldn't complete them myself. And I think part of that is lack of representation, because there's so many incredible disabled dancers today who use wheelchairs, and that probably would have blown my little kid mind. But I just distinctly remember wanting it so bad and just really, really wanting to do pointe. And it was one of the first things I ever worked incredibly hard for, that just sacrificed so much to be able to do it. I started using mobility aids when I wasn't in dance class so I could conserve my energy. I had my physical therapist work with me in order to just constantly work. I actually graduated in physical therapy when I was working through it, because I'd worked so hard to get the strength necessary. I was taking multiple dance classes. My mom was being incredible, doing lessons for the dance studio. She offered private lessons for music for my ballet teacher, and there was just so much work that I put in to be able to maintain my strength and to hopefully get to the point where I could do pointe. And then life happened, and I wasn't able to do one of my classes, and I was growing up, and as you go through puberty, things change. And for me, my disability progressed, and I never got to do pointe. And it is something that I still, to this day, feel a little pained over, because it was, something you want when you're a little kid, and it felt so not necessarily achievable, but it wasn't just, I want to be a princess. It was, I just wanted to dance pointe once. But the interesting part of that is that even in this dream, even in this very innocent childhood aspect, I knew that there was an equation that I needed to think about. There was an equation for the energy that I had in any given day. There was this expectation of how long am I able to maintain the place that I am today? How can I not push myself too far to progress my disability, but also how do I maintain it without not doing enough, and just trying to play this middle ground and hope that nothing disturbs it, because all it would take is an illness, something to go off, and just go down to a side where it was no longer strong enough. And so ever since then, I have been very particular when I think about my future, that I tried to think about something achievable. I tried to think about, what can I do if my physical health deteriorated, if I lost access to all of these things, if my mobility aids became a more prominent part of my life, if I lost my ability to speak in the way that I do now, what is my future going to look like? I have picked my dreams and my aspirations with this mindset. Even as an adult, I feel sometimes with this just in case mindset, that I may want to do this, but just in case, I need to do this. I need to pursue this path. I need to constantly think about that. And especially, it's interesting as part of the Disney College program that I am demanding more of my body than I have ever demanded on my body before. And just with this knowledge that because of COVID, not the illness, but all of the isolation and stuff, I was able to protect my body, and I kind of took a break from being sick for a while, from like getting sick. And it allowed me to establish the space of consistency in my health that I do not take for granted today, which is why COVID scared me so much. And I think it's interesting how this formula has just extended throughout my life from childhood to now, and trying to kind of reconnect with my childhood dreams and reconnect to the what ifs instead of the just in cases. And I don't know what the right answer is. And then you also add in stigma, which I have studied extensively. And trying to manage stigma takes a lot of energy, because not only are you trying to calculate like what is your life like, but it's something I learned as someone who was using mobility aids when I was only out of dance class, that there was a stigma about that. Why could I dance but not walk around my church? Why could I do this but not that? And so there's this constant fear that I wasn't going to be taken seriously. And it's something that I still experience to this day, that people don't talk to me. They talk to the people who appear not disabled. They make comments. They treat me like I'm a child. And so for my perfect formula, I was just kind of came to this place of, if I am the smartest person in the room, not even like the smartest, but the most informed, if I made sure that I knew the things, that I studied really hard, that I could do whatever we were trying to do in the classroom, that you had to take me seriously, that no matter what. And I didn't have to be fun to do that. I didn't have to go out and party or do things that I just was never going to do, because it didn't matter, because I was going to be intelligent, and I had to work hard to make sure that if something happened, that my grades were not going to tank if I got sick for an exam, which had happened several times. I was never at the top of my class, but I did make sure that I was able to participate and be able to do things, and I wanted to be taken seriously because of those aspects. And as someone who's studied disability, and as someone who is trying to actively deconstruct the ableism, the internalized ableism I have in my life, I have to recognize that people with disabilities don't have to have degrees to tell people that their lives matter. They don't have to be smart. They don't have to be excellent, or just, have a thing that makes them not better than everyone else, but seen as more valuable than normal people have to prove. And even in that, there's elements of privilege and intersectional identities that plays into that mentality. And I think that's something I struggle with, though, because as I have worked at Disney, there isn't some, theory that I'm like, I know all of the information about this theory, part because I'm curious and a nerd. And then the other part is because I need to know, so that you know to take me seriously. So you know that I know what's going on, that I can work hard, that I can do this, that there's no space to doubt me. And that's the sad reality of trying to act in a way that brings about the world that I want it to be, and to not reinstigate the ableism that I have been growing in my life, or internalized ableism that has been kind of infused into me by society, I guess is the better way to say it. And the thing that pointed this out to me more than anything else was COVID. When COVID happened, at first, when the pandemic hit, and all of these people were saying that people with disabilities didn't matter, that their lives didn't matter, I just distinctly remembered I was just starting grad school, and I was going like, I'm getting my master's degree, I graduated, I was on the dean's list, I did all of these things. Does it mean anything? Like, my life matters, and I know that none of those things mean anything about the worth of someone's life, because people's lives are inherently worthy. but it didn't matter to anyone. All of these things that I tried to like put into my formula to be like, yes, believe me, my life is worthwhile, that my existence is important, that I deserve space in the academic world, in this world overall, that it really didn't matter, because at the end of the day, you can't convince someone to care about you if they never really did, because of their own interpretations of what is life and what is worth. And it broke something inside of me. It truly destroyed the way I viewed the world. And this perfect formula was inherently broken, and I saw just how broken it was. And I just really felt like I had been training for the Olympics this entire time. I was PhD track. I was doing things that I was passionate about and I loved. And then I realized just how much that didn't matter when it came to me as a person and the way the world viewed me as a disabled individual. And that just made me have to reconsider the way I viewed my life. And that's part of the reason why I didn't apply for PhD when I graduated with my master's. And it's because I needed to learn how to calculate my life in a different way. I needed to learn a new formula. And for now, that means that I need to figure that formula out without school. And that means that I'm putting myself in a position that I can't just be, learning all of the things that you actually have to really, really, really practice in the moment, that you can't do out of classes, out of jobs. Like, you can't learn how to talk to guests when you are not a guest or when you're not at work. And you can't learn how to use the systems that are only accessible at work and practice until you're perfect. And that's what I have done in the past. And so, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's something I wanted to talk about because from getting sick, I think that this equation has put me in a stressful place. And then also trying to think about my future, because I'm applying to extension opportunities, I'm applying to professional internships. If I am going to apply for PhD, that application comes up in January. Like, I am trying to figure out what the next parts of my life is going to look like, and that is going to reflect what the next 5 years are going to look like. And I don't know what those things are going to look like, and I have to calculate that uncertainty. And if you experience these things, you're not alone. If you have the answer, if you have some grand formula, please let me know, because I am desperately searching all the time. But yeah, that's where I am. That's the big thoughts for the month that I have been off. But I really do want to know what you guys think, because this is just my experience, and there's so much more to this conversation, and I just want to start it. So please leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching this video. If you are some of my subscribers, thank you. You guys mean so much to me. I started this channel because I wanted to see more people like me, and I have this belief that if you don't see the things that you're looking for, the representation that you want, you just got to build it for yourself. So thank you guys. Anyway, have a good day. Bye.